So, today I want to talk to you guys about the dangers of early potty training. Do they really exist? Or could this be something that is meant to make some companies a crap ton of money by leaving our kids in diapers longer? Is it A or is it B? So, we're going to explore that today with a guest article that I'm going to share with you guys from my blog by Rebecca Motram. She is one of our Go Diaper Free coaches. She can be found on littlebunnybear.com. She compiled all of this data a few years ago, but it is all current and everything is cited heavily on the website. So you can find all of that at godiaperfree.com/203, including a written version of all of this as well, in case you want to look into the research a little bit more for yourself. So, is early potty training dangerous? What is the evidence base for delayed versus early potty training? And have you ever even thought about it? So, this article today, this presentation, this topic looks at both sides of the debate, including the evidence in support of early potty training, as well as the reported dangers and the idea of readiness. If you guys have heard, wait till your child is ready. It finds that the suggested dangers surrounding psychological risk, like you're going to psychologically damage your baby by toilet training early, and the development of voiding problems, in other words, problems with poop, are actually unfounded in the available research. And this article I'm going to share with you today concludes that supporting children to develop readiness skills should start no later than 12 months using a gentle, non-coercive approach. And they're talking about real toilet training here, not EC. With EC, you can start at birth. Also, in Rebecca's article, it argues that our notions of when to start potty training are much more to do with parental readiness than that of a child's maturation, and suggests that helping your baby use a potty from birth, leading to gentle, non-coercive potty training from around 18 months, if it's even necessary, is actually the best way to meet a child's developmental needs, both physically and psychologically. So again, everything we do here at Go Diaper Free is in alignment with nature and the way our children were created to function naturally. So let's first address the question, what is early potty training? Okay, so what we understand as early as well as training differs between cultures, obviously, and approaches. Many people in North America and Europe would define early as before age 3, but in the literature, it's generally deemed to be before age 2. So early is before 2, and very early if initiated before 18 months. And maybe some of you guys have done a potty training experience at 18 months or 2 years old. That isn't the norm anymore, but it was 1957 and below. 92% of American children were finished with toilet training by 18 months in 1957. Crazy, right? I'm ad-libbing a little bit because I like to add in information, but like Rebecca's article is super awesome. You guys should check it out. So in terms of training, so that is early. And then training, this depends on what the expectations are. What do you want to get out of this? What's the outcome? So in the conventional sense, it means teaching a child to use a potty or a toilet rather than a diaper, and thereby eliminating the need for diapers thereon. So training means you're no longer using diapers. And there are articles quoted at the bottom of, other articles quoted at the bottom of this blog. One of them is by Kashmar. And she highlights many potty training experts or advisors propose that children cannot achieve this until 18 months at the earliest to be trained. And to do it earlier is not only futile, but potentially harmful. We'll talk about this more in a moment. However, the practice of helping a young baby use a potty, what we know as elimination communication, can often mean that babies have developed a capacity to be reliably clean and dry much earlier than 18 months. These babies have not necessarily been trained in the way we have come to expect. So we are mincing up the words here because, boy, is it a little bit skewed. Many parents who practice EC would disagree with the idea of it being described as potty training, perhaps because the idea of training doesn't seem so baby-led. And then she talks about Andrea explains that teaching can begin from birth, and this is very different from training, and describes what she calls teaching some building blocks as a critical component for later independence. So in this post of Rebecca's, I will describe early as anything before age 2.5, which is now generally considered the average age of beginning potty training in the UK, where she lives. And is your child over 18 months? How many of you guys have one of them? You can start potty training today with my book that she refers people to, which is the Tiny Potty Training book, which will show you step by step how to do it gently, swiftly, and be done with diapers for good. But let's talk about potty training in other cultures for a second, other countries. So in North America and Europe, parents generally wait until children are at least 2 years old before starting potty training. However, in 75 countries around the world, that's a lot, guys, it is common for babies to use no diapers. Half the world's babies never wear diapers, like ever, and are potty trained by 12 months of age. In other words, they're using the toilet instead of wherever else they're going. And maybe that means that and you can check out this article, it's resource number 4 on the blog. But I would assume that this means that they are actually taking themselves every time by 12 months of age. And they never wear diapers. In various countries around the world, babies are trained anytime from 2 to 24 months. So they start the training as early as 2 months. In Thailand, 92% of babies start potty training between 4 and 12 months old. In Vietnam, babies are trained by 2 years old. And there are sources for all of these because this is a research-based, evidence-based article on my blog. So why on earth, you guys, would we delay? Introducing the wait for readiness approach. So the readiness approach was introduced in the 1960s, right after disposable diapers came on the market and nobody wanted to buy them. That's for me. And remains widely accepted and popular today. Its fundamental premise is that there is an optimum point at which to begin toilet training based on a child's willingness to cooperate and engage with the process of developing toileting autonomy. So it's based on the child's willingness. Have you had a 2 or 3-year-old before? Anyone? Willingness to cooperate can vary very drastically. Brazelton is the pediatrician who published the first paper recommending this approach. And he advocated for potty training from 18 months, which has doubled and almost tripled since then. He acknowledged that sphincter control could be developed by 9 months of age and suggested that the optimum time to start potty training was in fact between 12 to 18 months. And he sits on he's the president of the University of Pampers University. And I don't think they recommend 12 to 18 months anymore. Just saying. So let's talk about the limitations of the readiness approach. We're going to pull this apart a little more. The main piece of research supporting Brazelton's potty training recommendations, which is linked in the article, was based on a small, relatively homogeneous population with no control group and performed only once with no follow-up in the 1960s. We would call that not sound science, not sound, unsound science. Yes. So since then, there have been very few studies assessing the efficacy of the method, with the first ever systematic review of toilet training strategies for healthy children finding just 6 related studies. You guys, that's been 82 years, 6 studies, and we've based our whole cultural change on this. Despite the lack of rigorous evidence available into the outcomes of delayed potty training, I would argue that the fundamental ideas around the readiness approach are based on a pretty sound knowledge of child development. Where I believe many parents have been misled surrounds the idea that readiness can only be elicited from a certain age. So this idea of readiness has been warped to be you can't start till 2 or 3. The conclusions of the available research in support of delayed potty training really show that approaches to potty training are more to do with parents' assumptions about their child's development psychologically than about the exact time at which a child should begin. So what are our assumptions based on, parents? Our assumptions are based on what we learn from social media, and people and doctors and things, and not necessarily based on a fact, right? It's what we assume. Thank you to Maria Kashmar, who wrote Lose the Diapers, a hybrid early potty learning approach, for this citation to this piece of evidence, which is cited in the post. And again, you can go to godiaperfree.com/203 to read the whole thing. Ironically, though, if you look closely at the Brazelton technique, you will see that nearly all of the steps in the process are in fact initiated by the parents, not the children. So this would appear to support the notion of parent-led potty training from a very young age. So perhaps readiness has less to do with what babies are capable of and more to do with adult attitudes. towards engaging their babies with the process of learning toileting skills. And you guys, maybe a lot of adults are scared of it because they've never done it before. And everybody says that they're going to psychologically damage their babies. So we have a confidence issue, right? How many of you guys have that as well? So does delaying the onset of potty training disrespect our own children's developmental capabilities? Are our efforts to avoid overburdening young children with the task of toileting actually taking away important opportunities to develop readiness skills? So next we talk about developmental readiness. Is this age dependent? Someone named Wu highlights that if we break down the 28 separate toilet readiness signs proposed by Readiness Method, so these are the signs of is your child ready to potty train, half of these signs occur between 12 to 24 months of age. However, if the requisite skills of independence have been removed, they can be observed as young as 9 months. So in other words, we can assist our babies much earlier. Wu concludes that based on signs of readiness, a reasonable approach would be for parents to consider toilet training when their child is able to communicate the need to urinate and is able to stay dry during a nap or for 2 hours during the day. This person's opinion. In my experience, and that of many other parents who practice infant toileting, babies clearly communicate the need to eliminate from birth and can develop the ability to stay dry for 2 hours from around 6 months if they are regularly encouraged to void in a potty rather than a diaper. Jamie Glowacki, author of Oh Crap Potty Training, suggests these signs of readiness, which may or may not correlate to a particular age. 1, has the child learned things by repetition and consistency? 2, can the child communicate needs such as hunger and thirst? 3, can the child throw a tantrum? In other words, they are aware of their desires. So if we broaden our understanding of readiness beyond a child reaching an age where they can do things independently, like manipulate their clothing, which honestly could be forever for some kids, as per the standard recommendations, we are likely to see our children as ready sooner. So if we look beyond the age, right? And again, if your child is over 18 months old, I do teach EC, but you want to do potty training step by step, gently, swiftly, and be done with diapers for good with my book, The Tiny Potty Training Book. So let's talk about becoming ready. Imagine that you are teaching your child to ride a bike. Would you buy them a child-sized bike? Would you teach them about safety? Would you give them plenty of chances to practice in accordance with their developmental level? Of course you would, right? Or would you simply wait till they were old enough to acknowledge these things for themselves before you even introduce the concepts? Probably not. So, like many approaches to skill acquisition, I think you'd be more likely to start as soon as you saw an opportunity, recognizing there is a journey of skill development involved, like mounting the potty, pushing down the pants, wiping, before independence can be readily and gently achieved. And you can stop using diapers before they're independent, by the way. You're just going to have to assist a little bit with those skills she's talking about, acquiring skill acquisition. So, in relation to helping children succeed with independent toileting, there is surely a similar trajectory in terms of preparation, right? So, is early potty training possible? An international study by Rugolato et al. Of nearly 300 caregivers who helped their infants use a potty demonstrated that it was possible to recognize a baby's cues and offer a potty. Furthermore, it is possible to replicate the approaches used by non-Westernized cultures, as demonstrated by author Smeets in her observation of 3 to 7 month infants in the Netherlands. You can read more detail on the available scientific literature in support of potty training in other cultures. The link is over there. The show notes, godiaperfree.com/203. So did you know that you can start pottying your baby anytime? If you follow me, you probably already know that. And did you know that you can do it part-time and still use diapers until your baby is ready to potty train, if they even need it? That's where you would use my book, Go Diaper Free, to do EC. So why would we worry about any of this at all? Why bother, right? Early, late, does it matter? So many times I hear parents say or write, let them be babies. Which, come on, can we dissect that, please? Let them be babies. Diapers have only existed disposable since the 60s. And cloth diapers commercially available for 200 years. So let them be babies is kind of like not very accurate. So anyway, so many times I hear people say, let them be babies, or they will do it when they're ready, or we don't need to push them. If any of you heard that. And I agree with all these principles. Yes, we should definitely have a chillax home where we're not pushing them to do things they don't want to do. However, in the context of potty training, I believe they are unfounded. They are sound bites. Kate Clancy summarizes why we have a duty to worry. She's another author and study quoted in this post. Quote, I can't help it. I do worry. I worry about the mound of 5,000 non-biodegradable disposable nappies sitting behind each unworried, non-anal Western baby, and the 70 cubic meter pond of water, and the hillock of 1,422 kilograms of raw materials that were used to make them, and the vast 75,000 hectare estate required to grow these materials. To say nothing of his carbon footprint and the slightly smaller carbon footprint of the few, perhaps rather more worried, Western babies in washable nappies, especially if their mothers are guilty of using the tumble dryer as I am. I am not disgusted by children's poop so much as by our process of wrapping it first in a nappy, then in a scented plastic bag, then in the bin, then in landfill. Nappies there are 11% of domestic landfill. Here they are 1/3. A mummified morsel that will outlast the pyramids, end quote. Difficult to argue with that, isn't it? I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, but I do think we have a collective responsibility to leave a better world behind for the future. If parents simply started potty training sooner, we'd instantly reduce the environmental impact by half. Even if you're trading this having already, even if you're reading this having already completed potty training, yay, it's never too late to pass this message on to those with babies still to reach this milestone. For example, if they would potty train at 18 to 24 months instead of 36 months, how much could we save the environment for real, you guys? So now we're going to move on to the idea of starting early. A lot of you guys know this, but Rebecca from Little Bunny Bear has a really nice way of talking about it on her website. So the practice of helping a young baby use a potty, EC, has been shown to have various benefits, particularly related to aiding complete bladder and bowel voiding. Guerra found that bladder control is not merely a reflex, but a series of coordinated messages between the brain and the bladder designed to assist effective voiding. Arguably, this supports the evidence that regular potty use maintains and develops sphincter control from a very young age. Note that's maintains, and develops, because babies are born with sphincter control, even though the nursing manuals, what our nurses in America learn from, say 18 months is when sphincter control develops. Probably because the sphincter has been just sitting there doing nothing for a little while. Thank you to Kashmar, whose book on early potty training led me to find some of the articles referenced here in this whole blog. You can read more on the scientific evidence in favor of earlier potty training in her book, Lose the Diapers. So I believe that when babies are given regular opportunity to void or poop in something other than a diaper, instead of teaching them to ignore their instincts and bodily signals, we help them to maintain their awareness, which not only respects their innate capabilities, but gently leads to readiness for potty training much sooner, again, if you do it. So EC benefits: you use fewer diapers, save money, it's better for the environment, you're responding to baby's instincts, which totally honors your baby, you avoid diaper rash, which we're going to talk about in a few episodes, and you're prepared for potty training. You also avoid power struggles. You get a naturally clean baby. When you start early, you finish early. You avoid constipation and soiling, wetting, UTIs, and accidents. And this respects the baby's development. All right, so now we get to the thing. Some of you guys might have heard of Dr. Hodges, not my favorite. Is early potty training physically dangerous, is the question. Articles by Dr. Steve Hodges often do the rounds and are, from what I have found, the most commonly cited articles in support of delayed potty training for medical reasons. He suggests age 3 to begin potty training. Ugh, absurd. The dangers, he argues, concern the effects of urine and stool holding, resulting in decreased bladder capacity and constipation, is his theory. He proposes that this is more prevalent amongst children who potty train earlier. But what he actually describes, you guys, is not related to the timing of potty training, but instead to stool and urine retention. Quote, to understand the risks of early training, it's important to know that virtually all toileting problems, pee and poop accidents, bedwetting, urinary frequency, and urinary tract infections are related to chronically holding pee or poop or both. Okay, so that's what Hodges says. He says a lot of other things too, by the way. Oh, you can read all about it if you want to, but I'd rather not be stressed today. We should not dismiss the importance of preventing dysfunctional voiding, dysfunctional pooping, which is his specialty, by the way. His whole practice, Dr. Hodges only works with people children who have dysfunctional pooping issues, constipation, medical constipation. So anyway, that's where he's coming from. But the relationship between early potty training and the development of problems later on is unfounded in the research evidence. Rather, studies have shown that early potty training develops good bladder coordination, reduces the incidence of urinary tract infections and bladder accidents, promotes daytime dryness, and actively protects the bladder. There are 5 different studies quoted in the blog post on this, so you can read up on those. Earlier potty training is also shown to reduce the incidence of toileting resistance or stool toileting refusal, refusing to poop, which requires medical resolution. 2 more articles. All this evidence saying that early potty training is better. Late training, on the other hand, has been shown to result in more daytime wetting relapses and incontinence and a longer duration of toilet training. So toilet training is going to take longer if you wait longer. Wow. Well, I don't understand why we would do that then. And more wetting in the day and incontinence. Boy, it's because those muscles haven't been working at all, right? They've just been like, hey, let's just go whenever, however much we want, and then eventually we'll get changed. Okay, so is it physically dangerous? Doesn't sound like it. What's wrong with Dr. Hodges? Will's teammate suggests the development of voiding problems is related to early potty training. This idea is anecdotal at best. So I'll just lay that to rest and does not acknowledge any of the available clinical evidence that disputes it. This study, linked godiaperfree.com/203, which demonstrated no relationship between age of toilet training and voiding issues. Here's a little bit of a quote from that. Quote, the only thing that is damaging is chronic holding, which, as this study mentioned, is not more likely to happen in earlier potty learners. Bladder problems such as infections and incontinence are actually more common in later potty learners. 3 articles linked and others. The evidence says exactly the opposite of what Dr. Hodges is claiming. So there is another fundamental flaw in all of his research. It is based on his knowledge, I already mentioned this, his knowledge of children who have urinary and bowel problems, not normal, healthy children. So can his research be generalized to larger, healthier populations? And can we base an entire culture of delayed potty training on this guy's articles? Whew. If you follow the money, by the way, he has books to sell, and so do I, but it's like, I don't think that he's got legit information if he's not studying normal, healthy children. A friend of mine recently contacted Dr. Hodges asking him about patients he had seen in his clinic who had practiced EC, pottying from birth. In his response, he says, quote, we've seen some EC patients, but we have a low prevalence in this area. We are generally opposed to early training for the reasons described on our website. But as long as the children empty well, in other words, fully empty their bladder or their bowels, there shouldn't be an issue. Making sure they empty well is the trick. We see more problems with the children trained 12 to 18 months. Very few actually practice elimination communication. End quote. Wait. So it's actually more to do with effective voiding than the timing of potty training? Well, this is very convenient for parents to help their baby go potty, as research has shown that using a squatting position, as practiced by parents using EC, aids complete voiding, because we're basically doing the squatty potty without the squatty potty with our babies when we hold them for EC. So he's saying don't early potty training, but now he's saying, no, actually, you just need to fully be sure your child fully empties. Great, because that's what early potty training does. Oh my God. Can you guys, like, really, when we look at this and dissect it, can you see what is behind all of this? A multi-billion-dollar industry that profits from the longer our kids are in diapers. Yeah. All children are at the risk of developing constipation and urinary problems. It's possible. And as serious as that is, I believe there is no evidence base to relate it to the timing of potty training. As Jen Philpott of Born Ready explains, don't let the headlines mislead you. They may suggest early potty training is bad, but they don't actually represent the research itself, which concludes that constipation, rather than the age at which a child potty trains, is the cause of problems. The fact is that the age of potty training has risen, so has the incidence of urinary and bowel dysfunction. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. We're almost done with this one. I just want to wow, if you know somebody who is believing that delayed potty training is better and early potty training is going to damage their kid, which I think we're definitely changing the tide there at Go Diaper Free, definitely have them listen to or watch this, okay? The method or the age? What if we consider what humans did for hundreds of thousands of years before diapers were invented? If the suggestion is that potty training prior to 18 months is damaging, would that not mean that you, your parents, your grandparents, and basically all generations before you, not to mention the 75 countries in the world who routinely use no diapers at all currently, are all psychologically damaged? Dr. Hodges conveniently dismisses this idea, blaming it instead on diet and access to toileting facilities. Again, these suggestions are more to do with avoiding chronic constipation and urine holding than the age at which potty training is initiated. In fact, both these dangers can be avoided by gentle, non coercive potty training when they're at an age when there is least likely to be resistance, like they're not in the no phase. In other words, before 24 months, or heck, just do EC from birth and then you can just continue as you started, right? I believe the available research suggests that our concerns over potty training are more to do with the method used rather than the age at which potty training is initiated. If we are rigid with our babies, use harsh or punitive methods of toilet training, or shame them about their bodily functions, these are the things that can create problems. I think we all can agree with that. In particular, the way we speak to our babies about their eliminations risks stool, toileting, refusal, withholding poop, and therefore holding. So, what we say, the communication part of EC, matters. Changes in potty training practices have been less driven by scientific data than by popular ideas, pop culture, of whether permissive or strict parenting was better. ParentingScience.com gives a good overview of the arguments for and against early potty training and concludes there is no evidence that early potty training harms children. Great. Rather, such ideas are based on opinion rather than rigorous scientific research. We have a lot of that going around in the world right now too, don't we? They come down to a gross misrepresentation in the media fueled by multi-million-dollar investment in promoting disposable diapers. Follow the money, you guys. I would argue that the real danger lies in waiting too long. But that, of course, would sell fewer diapers, wouldn't it? So Rebecca goes on to saying that we should do EC. She definitely, she teaches it, but she also teaches early potty training if you cannot get around to doing EC, which is totally fine. I firmly believe that a gentle baby responsive approach is completely beneficial and in line with modern notions of attachment and intuitive parenting. Some of you guys might be doing attachment parenting. Definitely you're listening to your intuition more. For example, does this child look like she is being harmed by using a potty? Does she develop voiding problems later on? Did my little boy who was potty trained at 18 months? Does the experience of 99% of the world's children throughout history who potty trained before 3 years of age demonstrate what Dr. Hodges describes? So we need to question the narrative and see what is really true. So why has the average age of potty training risen and continue to rise? And this is about to wrap up here. Consider this. This is from Lose the Diapers by Maria Kashnar. Have you considered whether or not your previous or current potty training views might be shaped by the disposable diaper industry? Would the realization that you and other parents are being somewhat influenced by powerful for-profit industry rather than scientifically grounded, sound medical advice change your opinions? End quote. Could it be that it was Brazelton's significant conflict of interest, being employed as he was by Pampers, and still is, to promote ever-enlarging sizes of nappies, which actually promoted delayed commencement of potty training? I'd agree it was a significant factor. In 1977, before disposables were really popular, it took a while because moms did not want to put them in them. Most North American and European children were trained around 9 to 11 months old. And I told you 92% were done by 18 months. That's almost everybody, you guys, and that was in 57. So 2 decades later, most were trained by around 9 to 11 months. There's a study quoted for that, and another study confirmed that the introduction of disposable diapers and media campaigns were the main contributors to delayed potty training. The promotion of a convenient single-use product that reduces or eliminates laundry and the required parent-led potty training approach has provided many parents with a justification to delay. I wouldn't go so far as to say they were lazy, although this has been suggested. On the whole, I'd suggest it's because many parents struggle to perceive a benefit in starting early. Furthermore, they are not aware of the potential pitfalls of delaying, particularly in the relation to development of healthy voiding capacity. In other words, there are medical things that can happen if you do delayed toilet training. So what do the UK health officials say? And then we've got some take-home messages. This is so interesting. I love this stuff so much, you guys. Visit the NHS website for advice for potty training, and you will find that it concludes there is no perfect time to train. Likewise, the Institute of Health Visitors says there is no set time to start the process, but that 18 months is a good time to start. Importantly, both officials recommend encouraging the development of readiness skills, something I would argue is absolutely intrinsic to helping a young baby use a potty instead of a diaper, from both a physical and psychological perspective. So, in other words, those are my building blocks to potty independence. You teach them to wipe, how to mount the potty, how to do the whole process A to B, A to Z, not A to B. That's not enough. But the whole process completely, and get them into a routine and train them on how to do some of the physical things that might take time. ParentingScience.com argues that passive waiting does nothing to help your baby get ready. There will always need to be some element of teaching to the process, which is parent, not child led. Parents also put them in diapers. Come on. We can either teach our babies to use a diaper or we can teach them that wearing a portable toilet is not the only choice. You can find out how to start by getting my easy start guide at godiaperfree.com/start. So here are the take home messages, you guys. These are great. Potty training should be gentle and non-coercive. We know that. Respecting the development of independence at the child's own pace. But this does not actually inform when to start, only how to approach it when we do. We should not confuse EC with potty training. The two are very different. The research suggesting early potty training is dangerous are scientifically unfounded or unscientifically founded. The real danger lies in delaying potty training and thereby increasing the risk of developing voiding disorders. Our notions of when to start potty training have much more to do with parental readiness than that of a child's maturation or age. The research underpinning the Wait for Readiness approach originally recommended initiating potty training from 12 months. However, the study did not consider nonverbal signs or the experience of parents who practice EC that demonstrates that infants, newborns, show signs of readiness from birth. So helping your baby use a potty from birth, which is an exposure technique if you just do it super part-time, leading to gentle non-coercive potty training if you need to, from around 18 months, is a perfect way to meet these developmental needs, physically and psychologically. You guys, I am so excited to have shared this with you. That's Rebecca Motram's very, very in-depth, scientifically founded and researched article about whether there are dangers to early potty training. And clearly there are not. So we have a lot of resources and a lot of citations, including linked articles. It's like a couple pages long. If you want to go to those, it's godiaperfree.com/203. And what question do I have for you guys today? Let's see. I would just say, what is your biggest takeaway from all of this that you just learned? Is there something that stands out? Go ahead and go over to that website, godiaperfree.com/203, and leave a comment. And I would love to have conversations with you there. All right. Thank you so much.